everyone, welcome back to another English online session. Today I'm going to narrate the balance part of the story. We are not afraid to die if we can all be together. I have already told you they were trying to duplicate the journey or voyage undertaken by Captain James Cook, and the initial phase of their travel was very successful. There is nothing wrong in the voyage. But after the Cape Town, they expected this kind of adversary situation in the voyage. So they have just hired two people, two crewmen. The first one is Larry Vigil, an American, and another one is Herb Ziegler from Switzerland. They continued their journey, but they had to face certain adversary situations, and their ship wrecked. So what happened after that? Let's see in this part of the video. Water, water everywhere. I could feel that the ship had water below and I dared not to abandon the wheel to instigate. So the lower part of the ship filled with water. Some of the side uh, woods were broken and water was rushing inside. But he was not ready to leave the wheel to check that. Suddenly the front hatch was thrown open and Mary appeared. We are sinking. Suddenly the hatch means door. Mary, his wife, opened the door and said, "We are sinking," which means water was entering into the ship. She screamed, "The decks are smashed. We are full of water. Take the wheel." I shouted and I scrambled for the hatch. So immediately he asked his wife to take the wheel, just take control of the wheel, and he just ran to search the things to fix this. Larry and Herb were pumping like madmen. Broken timbers hung at crazy angles. The wood pieces, broken pieces, hung everywhere. And these two crewmen, they are pumping with all their effort to pump the water out of the ship. The whole starboard side bulged inwards, clothes, crockery, charts, tin, and toys sloshed about in deep water. Sloshed means move through liquid with a splashing sound. So everything like clothes, crockery, charts, everything were floating in the water. I have half swam, half crawled into the children's cabin. Are you all right? First thing he tried to check whether the children were okay. And he asked the children, "Are you all right?" I asked. Yes, they answered from the upper bunk, the bed. So they were safe in the upper bed and they answered, "Father, we are okay." "But my head hurts bit," said Sue here, Susan, pointing to a big bump above her eyes. I had no time to worry about bump heads. After finding a hammer, screw, and canvas, I struggled back on deck. So even though they were okay, Susan shows a bulge on her head and a bump on her head. But the narrator understood from the first look, he understood that it was not very serious. So he took certain things to fix the broken side of the boat and leave the place. But the starboard side bashed open. We were taking water with each wave that broke over us. One side of the boat, a crack was there, and whenever the high wave comes, water got into the boat. If I couldn't make some repairs, we would surely sink. Slowly, water get into the boat, and surely they sink. Before that, he had to do something. Somehow, I managed to stretch canvas and secure waterproof hatch covers across the gaping holes. Some holes were there, gap were there. The water was entering through that. He has to cover it with some canvas or some sort of material. He has to cover it. Some water continued to stream below, but most of it was now being deflected over the side. Deflected means turn aside. Okay. So the water was turning aside. Okay. Some water just turning the other side, moving to the other side. More problems arose when our hand pump started to block up with the debris. Debris means rubbish, the small pieces of food and other waste parts got into the pump and it started stop working. That another problem they have faced. The electric pump short circuited, the water level rose threateningly. So in Birivan, the electric pumps were short circuited. It was not working properly. The power supply is not proper. So the water, they couldn't pump the water out. So the water level increasing alarmingly. Back on deck, I found that our two spare hand pumps had been wrenched overboard, along with the forestay sail, the jib, the dinges, and the main anchor. He went to the deck and to check whether anything he could find to overcome this problem, and he found that the two hand pumps were wrenched. Wrenched means pulled suddenly or removed. It was not working in a proper condition and the forestay sail means a rope to support ships or foremast. Everything removed and the dinges and the main anchor. Dinges means a small boat. Everything in a wrenched condition, so he could not get help from anything. Then I remembered we had another electric pump under the chart room floor. Then he remembered he had another electric pump in the chart room. He can use that. I connected it to an out pipe and was thankful to find that it was worked. So he just connected that electric pump to a out pipe so he can pump the water outside and it was working. Fortunately, it was working. The night dragged on with an endless, bitterly cold routine of pumping, steering, and working the radio. The night moved very slowly. They felt like moving slowly. They have done the work in a routine. Uh, like one person was pumping the water, same time another person just steering the boat, just handling the wheel, and another person just trying to connect the radio to get help from others. So this work was done in a routine way uh, all through the night. We were getting no replies to our Mayday calls. Mayday calls means words used to signal ships stuck in a disastrous situation through radio. So any nearby ships or the station or they can contact to such people to get help. So the authorities who get the signal can send help to them, but there was no hope. Uh, they couldn't connect the radio. Sue had swollen alarmingly. She had two enormous black eyes, and now she showed us a deep cut on her arm. So, because hard hit on the head, her eyes, around her eyes, it became black because of blood clotting. And another thing is a sharp cut on her arm. So many injuries. Sue had a lot of injuries. When I asked why she hadn't made more of her injuries before this, she replied, I didn't want you to worry when you were trying to save us all. So now only the narrator realized that Sue had more than one injury. So he just asked, why don't you say it before? So she replied that I don't want to disturb you. You are trying to help us all or save us all. So that's why I didn't say anything about the other injuries. By morning on January 3, the pump had the water level sufficiently under control for us to take 2 hours rest in a rotation. So somehow on January 3 morning, they have managed to level down the water. Now, one person can still pump the water outside, the other two can rest in a rotation. They started working 2 hours of 2 hours of rest. Everyone get 2 hours of rest in a rotation. But we still had the tremendous leak somewhere below the waterline, and on checking, I found that nearly all the boat's main rib frames were smashed down to the Nile. So now the narrator tried to check where exactly this broke or this damage happened, and he found that it's below the water level. The rib or the middle part of the boat is almost smashed. From there, water was getting inside. In fact, there was nothing holding up a whole section of the starboard hull except a few cupboard partitions. So a big gap is there, except a few partitions. A big gap is there through that water was coming inside. We had survived for 15 hours since the wave hit, but wave walker wouldn't hold together long enough for us to reach Australia. So after the hit of the wave, they have survived nearly 15 hours, and the narrator wasn't sure they would reach Australia. The boat would not withstand till Australia. I checked our charts and calculated that there were two small islands a few hundred kilometers to the east. One of them, El Amsterdam, was a French scientific base. So he was just trying to chart the map to find before that they can find some other place to just anchor their ship and get help. So we had found a few islands. The one is El Amsterdam. It is the scientific research base of France. Our only hope was to reach these pinpricks in the vast ocean. Pinpricks here, the small islands. Okay, so that is the only hope for them. If they reach any one of these islands, they can save their life. But unless the wind and seas abated so we could hoist sail, our chances would be slim indeed. Abated means something unpleasant. So unless this adversary situation changes, this waves, this heavy wind, the chances of reaching that island is very slim. The great wave had put our auxiliary engine out of action. The big wave that hit the ship made the auxiliary engine, the supporting engine, in action. It was not working now. On January 4, after 36 hours of continuing pumping, we reached the last few centimeters of water. So now 36 hours passed after the disastrous. Now they almost pumped the water outside the ship. Now we had only to keep pace with the water still coming in. Now it is easy for them. When the water enters, they have to pump it out. So they can keep up with the pace of the water entering into the boat. We could not set any sail on the mainmast. Pressure on the rigging would simply pull the damaged section of the hull apart. So they cannot open the mainmast for the wind. If they open it, the wind which was blowing and hitting on the mast just destroy the framework of the structure of the vessel. So uh, opening or just releasing the mainmast was not a good idea. So they decided to just open the storm jib, okay, small sail that help them move slowly, and they are heading towards those two islands. Mary found some corned beef and cracker biscuits, and we ate our first meal in almost 2 days. After 2 days of tremendous work, tireless work, they had their first food after 2 days, some corned beef and biscuits. But our respite was short-lived. At 4 p.m., black clouds began building up behind us. Within the hours, the wind was back to 40 knots, and the seas were getting higher. So their respite means a short period of rest. The rest they got, it short-lived. After some time again, the clouds appeared. The black clouds appeared. It is just being bigger and bigger, and the wind also started blowing. Notes Here note indicates the speed of the wind which was blowing, and the sea also moving higher and higher. The waves are started rising. The weather continued to deteriorate throughout the night, and by dawn on January 5, our situation was again desperate. So again, the weather started getting worse. Again, the adversary situation increased. And on the morning of January 5th, the situation almost in a critical stage. When I went in to comfort the children, John asked, Daddy, are we going to die? So he decided to comfort the children or spend some time with the children so that they also be happy, or they may not afraid of the situation. By the time he just went nearby the children, Jonathan asked the question, Daddy, are we going to die? So this is such a serious question. You know how old was Jonathan? And such a child was asking this question. He almost understood the situation. He was thinking that they would not escape this danger. I tried to assure him that we could make it, but Daddy, he went on, we aren't afraid of dying if we can all be together. This is the title of the chapter. You can imagine that how much energy, how much hope these words will give to the narrator, the father. Okay, Jonathan simply saying, if we all together, I'm not afraid to die. We are not afraid to die. So for the family, the narrator was going to do something. He decided to do something. You and Mummy, Sue and I could find no words with which to respond, but I left the children's cabin determined to fight the sea with everything I have. Like I said earlier, such a energy, such a hope it has given to him. So he was hopeless actually. The narrator was hopeless, but after this conversation with Jonathan, he had decided he would do everything to save his family. To protect the weakened starboard side, I decided to heave to with an undamaged porthole facing the oncoming waves. So he decided to repair the side which was broken, the weakened side. For that, he just heaved to rise or lift with the effort. He just decided to protect the weakened starboard side. I decided to heave to with the undamaged porthole facing the oncoming waves. So the damaged part of the frame was there. He decided to lift it up and just correct it, uh, because the waves are approaching, and when the water rises, the water get into the ship. So he decided to cover that part. So he just lift the frames, and he used a nylon rope, very thick rope, to tie it, and just kept two plastic barrels of paraffin to cover that place. That evening, Mary and I sat together holding hands as the motion of the ship brought more and more water in through the broken planks. So this narrator and his wife sat in a particular place taking some rest. By the time also the water was entering through the gaps, we both felt the end was very near. As elders, they can understand the seriousness of the situation. They thought it is the end. But Wavewalker rode out the storm, and by the morning of January 6th, with the wind easing, I tried to get a reading on the sextant. So, but that storm also they overcame. That boat overcame that uh, storm also. And on the next day, January 6th, the narrator had more optimistic thoughts and he decided to check his position to calculate which way he has to go to reach that particular island. Sextant is used to just measure the angle or altitude. So by that they can understand that where they are. They have no idea where they are now. Back in the chart room, I worked on wind speeds, changes of course, drift, and current in an effort to calculate our position. He went back to the chart room and checked everything, the flow of the water, the current, and the wind blows, the side of the wind blows, and all those things he checked to find a proper position. The best thing I could determine was that we were somewhere in 1,50,000 kilometers of ocean looking for a 65-kilometer of wide island. So this in this huge ocean, they were just searching for a 65 kilometers of island, which means it's very difficult to find. He was just trying to spot it, but it is very difficult to find the island. While I was thinking, Suzanne, moving painfully, joined me. The left side of her head was now very sullen, and her blackened eye narrowed to slits. So now Susan joined with the narrator, and the bulge on her head it became bigger than the previous time. And in the part of eye, because of this bulging, only a slit can be seen as her eye. So heavily bulged. She gave me a card she had made. On the front, she had drawn caricatures of Mary and me with the words, "Here are some funny people." In this gap, she made a card she decided to give to her father. She just drawn some cartoons of the narrator and her mother, and she had given it to him. Did they make you laugh? I laughed a lot as well. Inside was a message. Oh, how I love you both. So this card is to say thank you and let's hope for the best. Look at that, the children, how they are supporting the parents. So he was just offering this gift or this present to her father to keep up his good work or trying to keep him optimistic. Somehow we had to make it. I checked and rechecked my calculations. So these kind of actions from the children's side make him work more to just save his family. We had lost our main compass and I was using a spare which not had been corrected for magnetic variation. He lost his main compass and he was using a spare one and it is not properly working. I made an allowance for this and another estimate of the influence of the westerly currents which flow through this part of the Indian Ocean. So he was just checking the flow of the water, particularly westerly currents. Then they can make use of that flow to move towards the island. About 2 p.m., I went on deck and asked Larry to steer a course of 185 degrees if we were lucky. I told him with a conviction I did not feel he could expect to see the island at about 5 p.m. So on that particular day at 2 p.m., he just handed over the steering to Larry and informed him, "You just uh, move 180 degrees in this course. So if we are lucky, we will find the island at 5 o'clock." He has no hope, but still he was just informing this to Larry. Then, with a heavy heart, I went below, climbed on my bunk here, bed, and amazingly dozed off because he was working tirelessly for a long time. When he reached his bed, he just lay and he dozed off. He just slept. When I woke up, it was 6 p.m. and growing dark. So he dozed off completely because of this tired, and he woke up at 6 p.m. and it was getting dark. I knew we must have missed the island, and with the sail we had left, we couldn't hope to beat back into the westerly winds. So he was very sure that they have missed the island and they are going in the wrong direction, and they cannot move back to the westerly winds to move in the correct direction. Why am I get a hug now? I asked. Because you are the best daddy in the whole world and the best captain. So the boy was hugging his father. The narrator could not understand what exactly happened, and he was asking why you are hugging now. And the boy was replying that you are the best daddy and the best captain. Not today, John, I am afraid. Why you must be, said Sue in a matter of fact voice. So, not today, because the captain or the narrator was thinking he hadn't done anything accurately to save these people. In a questioning way, Susan was asking, "Why you are saying like that? You found the island." Susan was informing, "You found the island. We have reached the island." What? I shouted. "It's out there in front of us," they chorused. So they have reached. Okay, as he expected, but he had no hope, but still he expected that they would reach that island, and they have reached. As big as a battleship, I rushed on the deck and gazed with relief and stark outline of ill Amsterdam. So they are about to reach the shore of the island El Amsterdam. So the captain was very happy. The narrator was very happy. It was only a bleak piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation, the most beautiful island in the world. It was only the volcanic bleak rock of bleak and a little vegetation he could find there. So this was, he was saying, this was the beautiful island he had ever seen in this world. We anchored offshore for that night, and the next morning all 28 inhabitants of the island cheered us. They helped us ashore. So they are safe now. They just anchored the ship there and slept. In the morning, the inhabitants, the people in that island, came there and received them. With the land under my feet again, my thoughts were full of Larry and Herbie, cheerful and optimistic under the direst stress, and of Mary, who stayed at the wheel for all those crucial hours. So when he just stamp on the land and he just entered the land, he was remembering the people who just withstand, who stand with him to overcome this disastrous situation, like the crewman had, and Larry and his wife. She just stayed on the wheel when he was trying to fix the broken place. So he was very happy. He was very happy with the people around him. Most of all, I thought of a 7-year-old girl who did not want us to worry about a head injury, which was subsequently took 6 minor operations to remove a recurring blood clot between skin and skull. Look at that, how painful it was, but she didn't disturb her father. That was out of immense tolerance that she decided to not disturb her father, and of a 6-year-old boy who was not afraid to die. So, and each and every people in the boat, in the ship, they have contributed their own part. That's why they have succeed in this mission. And the captain, in the end, he also played a vital role, but he was remembering how the other people contributed to reach here. So, such a wonderful story, giving more optimistic even the disastrous situation in our life, some sort of hope, some sort of optimistic things. Some people will be there to help us. Hope you enjoyed the story. Now read the text. Just write the given words and its meaning in the textbook. See you in the next online session with another story. Till then, take care. Bye.